Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So I think I got a drum take that's usable. The levels were good, I didn't mess up too bad as far as like I did what the guitar was doing, which the thing about doing this one-man band thing is that if you make a mistake at the very beginnings, you're going to be dealing with that mistake for the rest of the way. And it's almost always something. Like even when I think the take is pretty good, there'll be something in there that's a little off. And this song had a lot of kind of free time jam. It's hard to stay on a metronome with this, hard to stay on a timing thing because a lot of it's playing by feel. And I'm not playing with anyone else, I'm playing to myself. So there's a lot of weird little things I had to keep in mind. But I think I got a pretty good take. We'll examine it in a minute. But what I did was I used 4 mics. This was for the snare in track 1. I had the Rain preamp on for phantom power because this is like a phantom power here. You're not sure if it's there or not. So I use outside phantom power. I just don't feel like this one gives you enough, doesn't make the mic really, doesn't give enough gain, I think, to make the mic really bloom and shine, show you what it can do. Then I've got the 2 overheads. This one's directly above the snare, 2 sticks, then you move 2 sticks out, and there's one over the right shoulder. It's the Glenn Johns method. Then this microphone here is the bass drum mic, and it's out about a drumstick out. Sealed bass drum head, no hole. And it's only 4 mics. Keep things simple. Don't have to worry about phase issues. I don't have any more mics, actually, that are good enough to use for, recording, so I just kept it at 4, and I haven't felt the desire to upgrade. At some point, if I have a better space and more microphones and more desire, I will, get into that. But I've been happy with the 4 mic method. It seems to capture the right feel for these songs. All right, so I record them directly onto the Zoom, right? I did use an effect, just so you know. The first 2, the snare and the overhead snare that covers the left side, that was on what they call Big Shape. It's in dual mic. It's number 26. And it's just a highly compressed, kind of limited thing, and it gives the snare like a bigger booming sound. The only thing I don't like is it limits the cymbals a little bit at the end. You hear kind of that limiting sound on the cymbals, but the other mics don't. The other 2 are not affected by it, so you hear the normal decay too, luckily. And plus it's going to be overshadowed by guitars and whatnot. But I might rethink that effect next time, just because I heard that limiting it was doing on the cymbals, like where you can hear it like trying to limit them. You don't just hear the decay of the cymbal, you hear kind of like this other thing going on. But anyway, usually that works pretty well, and I think I'm okay with it. Now, I record those 2 with effects, the other 2 with no effect, and everything else is plugged directly in. Only the large diaphragm condenser is going through an outside preamp. And you don't need to do that. If you have a microphone that works great, that's fine. I just have gotten into using this for the snare because there's more articulation and detail. You hear more snare and just more presence. And you don't even have to, you could just do 2 microphones, that recorder man technique, where you have one above here and one here, 2 drumsticks apart, same distance from the bass drum. You can also measure it with like a string, from the bass drum. That will work as well, especially if you're doing lighter stuff, if you're not doing like heavy rock where you need the snare to be like right down the center every time. So anyway, got the 4 tracks. Now, what I do is when you go to the computer, when you connect using your USB, so if you go to USB and hit reader, and you have the attached cable to your computer, the icon will pop up on the computer. You open it, you go to the song, I have my songs named. This one's called The Lover. So it actually looks like Lover Q1, but it's Lover 1, L-O-V-E-R 1. And then looks like Love Q1 when you look at it. But anyway, I go into that file, and I know that Mono 000 was the guitar track scratched I did. I know that Mono 001 is the, like this is if you forget. You can look here on the tracks, you can go to track, and that first track will say mono, in my case it says Mono 002, because I did a guide track and I had a track where I count off stuff so that I have, another guide. so I'll know when to come back in. So I knew that the drums were going to be mono 002, mono 003, mono 004, and mono 005. And I see those tracks in that folder, and I'm going to take the first one and I just drag it to Audacity. And all I'm doing these days, I used to do noise reduction, but that kind of added a weird sound. Like I should go back to my first album and just remaster that whole thing with all the stuff I've learned since then. Mainly to do less stuff. The more stuff I was doing, the more kind of fake sounding it gets, and just less natural and more like, I don't know, just more digital sounding, you know, if you know what I mean, more sterile. So anyway, all I'm doing these days in Audacity is I hit the classic filters and I'll cut off the bottom, you know, at like 20, somewhere between 40 to 20. I'll just cut off so you get rid of all that weird rumble and junk. And it's you don't even tell, you can't even tell too much. And I'll do it higher on some things, but lately I've just been not cutting it off too low because I like a lot of heavy, thick bass. I just don't want stuff that shouldn't be there that was getting trapped in the room to be heard or accumulate over tracks and then starts to build up and you don't even notice it, so you need to clean that stuff out. And then I did on this one some amplification, because on this particular part I have a dedicated mic on the snare and I'm going da 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 da, you know, on one part I'm hitting it 3 times like a triplet. And then I'm doing the same thing on a tom later, but that tom does not have a direct mic, right? It's only being room mic'd or, you know, overhead mic'd. And so that's not going to have as much gain as the snare part. Plus the snare is just louder and I don't know, it just projects more. It's more of a bap, where the tom's like boom. So no problem. When you go into Audacity, I noticed that the snare track is perfect. You know, it's like peaking right where it should. It's like minus, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, but it was like right where I wanted it to be. You know, not pegging and not weak, so that you get too much noise. You know, you want that signal to noise ratio to be more signal, way less noise. That's when you start getting really garbage recordings. Is when you got so much noise and you have to amplify the signal up, and then it just amplifies all the noise. All right, so that was good. The one that was, you know, the not close mic'd was way softer. I just go to amplify and bump it up 3 to 5 dB. I can't remember what it was. And now you have the same volume level without adding a lot of noise. It was still very, very clean sounding. And you can always do noise reduction if you want to. I just got off of it. And then at the end, I take the mastered track and might clean up the front and clean up the rear, you know, like decide when to cut it and dissolve the last bit of noise and when to start it, you know, so you don't hear stick clicks or whatever you're trying to, however you want to start the song. But other than that, that's it. That's all I do processing outside of the Zoom. Most people might use these, you know, to go into the computer and then go from there. I just use the computer for a second and bring it back in. So let's do a quick sound comparison. I don't know, it won't be much of a sound comparison. It's coming out of this KB3 into a camera thing, and you're watching it on YouTube after they step on it. But I think you'll notice the difference just in the overall power of the thing. I mean, like the dynamics and stuff. All right, so let me take, shoot. I guess I didn't need my headphones today, but I think it might sound better to me with headphones on, even though you will hear, the audience will hear, you at home will hear that thing, but I think this might help me mix it better. Okay, so here is the original tracks. I got the effects off, nothing's on. Okay, these are gonna all go bye-bye. This is here, that's gonna be off. So we only have, oh wait, I can turn that back on. Wait, what is this? Hold on, let me go to track and find out what's on this track. Okay, that's mono 1 and that's mono 000, and those are the guide tracks. So I'll have those on just so you can hear. I'll kind of mix that so it won't be too much loud, goofy guitar. But just to give you an idea of what the song is going to be. And you'll hear my voice too counting off a couple of times. Alright, so here is what we recorded, or what I recorded yesterday and what you saw me recording. And now we'll disable these tracks and I'll turn on the tracks that I put in there and did the cleanup work, or the high pass, And then I will show you what this mastering effect does to things, because man, it really makes, if you haven't seen this yet, you won't believe it. It really makes the recordings like come to life. Okay, so here we go. We're going to hit play. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can even isolate, let me turn off that guide track. You can just isolate the snare for a second. There's the bass drum. Here's the right overhead. And the left overhead. And then the snare. Okay, so you get the drift, right? You get the feel for that. Now, I want these tracks to go away because I'm not going to use them anymore and I don't want them running. They're going to stay in the Zoom. If I want to go back to them, I can transfer these tracks back and start over from scratch. You know, you wouldn't have to be working with tracks that have already been altered already. So you could go back to the original tracks, which is awesome. But I want them to go away for now because I don't want to play back while I'm playing back my new tracks. So I'm going to go to track, all the way to 1, hit take, file, and I'm going to go to new take and just do that all the way across. File, good old new take. And they usually leave you in the same area. If you're trying to do the same thing, you won't have to keep shuffling through and finding it because sometimes the order of this is weird. Okay, and so those are all new takes. They're ready to be recorded on because I'm going to set up the guitar mics tonight. So I need to clear some space here and get this ready to go into 1 and 2. Okay, now meanwhile, back on 17 through 24, let's turn all those tracks on and we'll get a mix. So these are all on now. I'm going to do it again so they go to green. Oh cool, all at once, 4 and 4. Next step. So we have our tracks on there and we've named them inside the Zoom. If I go to that row, I see the names of them. I've got them named as snare, snare 2, left overhead 1, left overhead 2, right overhead 1, right overhead 2, bass drum 1, bass drum 2. And the only reason that there's 2 of these is because I'm just giving more gain. Basically, it's like 3 to 5 dB of gain, and it just sounds like more. It's a little trick I read on the Zoom forum back in the day when I first got this machine, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. No, I guess I haven't had it. I can't remember when maybe in 2018 I found this. And there was a forum, and I don't know if it's still around. I haven't been able to find that exact forum, but it explained all this stuff, you know, how to use the mastering and everything like that. So that's where I got the extra information that really made this thing come to life. And a lot of people on there would double stuff. So that's how I got into doubling. And I'm only using 4 mics, and I have plenty of tracks, so I might as well, right? And it has worked. Okay, so that's what, and right now, for mixing or for just playback purposes for an audience, I'm going to leave everything down the center. Later, what I will do is I'll be panning the left, since I did 2 lefts, I'll pan both lefts a little to the left, pan both rights a little to the right. Just gives more stereo spread, because that's how it's recorded. You do the same thing recording, just pan out a little bit. It's like 40%, you know, something like that. Alright, so I've got all these tracks in place. Let's go to the mastering effect now. And first things first, before you change the mastering, or change to mastering, let's bring this red knob. Think of this as like, you know, you're like the Batman phone, you know, it's like special and it's dangerous, you know. So you want to turn it all the way down because it'll blow your speakers up, blow your headphones up, you know, all that kind of thing. Hurt your ears. All right, so I'm going to go to Effect, and it says Insert Effect. All right, well, I'm going to turn it on and go to Mastering. And then I just chose the first one. You can go through and see which one naturally sounds the best with the song you've got. But I like this first one for whatever reason. It's just a basic EQ and to cut off the crossovers that sound right. So I just adjust it for my liking. And the way you do that, in the next step, after you choose the first one or whichever one you want to choose, when I record live and I'm doing like the Bloom Lens stereo recording, I'll go through and find the best one that just sounds right. And I've used a couple different ones, and then I adjust that one because live recording is different from this. In the studio, this one's worked well. All right, so then you go to the input screen, and input selection. I don't know what SRC means. I'm too dumb to understand that, but you want to input selection. So we don't want to just isolate it to a couple tracks or one track. We want the entire thing to be mastered and to go through it. So we go to Master. Then Edit. I'm going to hit that. And I edited this earlier, but I got off of it. Oh yeah, it stayed. So I'm going to just put everything for now on 5. The highs on 5, the mids on 5, the low on 5. The finished track, I might get much more, you know, those numbers will change. But with drums, I know that it's going to sound good. It's going to give it a boost, and everything's going to be well represented with not too much bass or too much highs. And then later I can, you know, mix that accordingly. Then I'm going to move over to the gain on the normalizer, and I always go to 0 on that. It just puts in like a crunch that I don't need. Bass on the 3-band EQ, maybe we could do 202 or 555. Let's do 555 to see what happens on the 3-band. Sometimes I'll go 202 on that just off the bat. Then this noise reduction, 0. Patch level, you can play with that with live recording. Sometimes going up gives it more, sometimes dropping it down helps. If you just can't get the level down, just drop the patch level like 1 notch and see if that helps. Now I'm going to exit out, and I'm going to work my fader up, and it won't be too loud because it's drums, but if it was the whole band thing going and the guitars and everything was going to come down, it would be, you know, hurt your ears. Alright, so, and I guess the drums would hurt your ears on their own because they're loud as hell. Alright, so I'm going to just kind of put the levels down the middle, and as I go, I will adjust levels, and I'll kind of isolate tracks and show you what each thing sounds like. Alright, so let's 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hear that moment again, that guitar is kind of making it sound goofed up. I know it's, actually let me just hear it isolated without that guitar. Okay, now it's starting to sound like something. All right, let me just isolate a couple of things for you, just to show you what we have, and I'll show myself what we have. I haven't heard this since last night. Okay, so here's the snare. 1, 2, 3. That's just the dynamic mic on its own. Now let's hear that same thing. I'm going to just add in the left overhead. So I'll add it in. I'll show you. 1, 2, 3. So that really works perfectly together. This being close mic'd gives you the direct bap, you know, you get that and then this gives you the room and the air It's really cool. Man, that's sounding really good to my ears right now. I hope you guys are digging it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning. This time I'll add the right overhead.
1, 2, 3.
Digging that big time. Alright, so let's go now and add in the bass drum. That should be the last little step. I hope this is discernible, you know, as far as the audio goes.
2, 3.
Got the bass drum. That was like some extra, that was the noise, that wasn't any drumming noise, that's going to be quiet, and I love the ending because it's just like cymbals really get to decay. And that time I didn't hear that wiggle because I think there's just more sound, the gain the low. And I found that after the night that I do the take, I guess my ears are already tired from getting, you know, inundated with drumming and guitar sounds and headphones, and I try not to you know, spend too much time. I like to use hearing protection as much as possible. Sometimes when I'm tracking, that's just not really, you know, doable. So I try to protect my ears as much as possible, but they do get tired, you know, and you got to take a break. I found that if you give your ears a break, if you blow them up, as long as you don't really blow them up, like, you know, Thomas Edison style, you're okay. But if you get them tired and then you just back off, like try not to do any loud stuff for a while till they feel better, that seems to help, you know, not being so relentless with them and not spending a bunch of time with the headphones on cranked. Because your ears get used to it and they kind of, you know, compress, you know, and they get, that's when a lot of times the difference is you're hearing your amp as the night goes on is not the amp warming up, it's your ears compressing. At least that's what somebody told me. I could be completely wrong. But anyway, so yeah, I feel like it's a successful drum take, and hopefully you understand the importance of this mastering effect, man. It's some serious, the whole Zoom thing is like, you know, it's kind of half powered without that effect. It really just, I don't know why, man, it like really brings it to life, and it just makes you sound like you can record something, you know. Next time.